I'm ready to talk about masculinity. Welcome, Sigma males. This is Alex with another video from Sigma Spirit, and today we're going to talk a little bit about masculinity. Much can be said about this topic, but I want to give you my 2 cents about the ways in which masculinity comes easily for Sigma males, ways that it doesn't come easily for Sigma males, and then one thing that's actually a feminine trait that many Sigma males actually have to come to terms with. They have to learn to accept. So, if we want to talk about masculinity, we have to talk about the definition. Many people in today's society, the narrative, the conversations, they're taking masculinity and changing the definition of it and attributing toxic behavior to an ideology or a set of traits. And really, there's no correlation between masculinity and toxic behavior. Toxic behavior is separate. You can have toxic Christianity, or you can have good Christianity. You can have toxic Buddhism, or you can have toxic game playing, or you can have good game playing. You can have good sports, bad sports. It's all about the intentions and the other qualities about it. So I think that, in my opinion, it has very little to do with these masculine or feminine traits. So what I want to do before we go further is to figure out a very broad definition. So when I think about masculinity, I think of the masculine symbol. To me, that represents the ultimate definition of what masculinity is. What is the masculine symbol? So you've got your circle, and you've got your little arrow that comes off to the side of it. And to me, that means you've got this body, this circle, the circular body, and it all follows the motion of where this arrow goes. And when I think about masculinity, I think about that arrow. That arrow is really the symbol for me of what a masculine person is. It's that motion, the activity, the motion forward, the movement, the direction, the assertion of your being forward. So that's how I view masculinity. But obviously that's a very vague definition, and we need to think of it in more clear terms. And we can do that with the use of certain definitions and qualities and buzzwords and things like that. So some buzzwords I wrote down include integrity, presence, courage, independence, being goal-oriented, protective, active, objective, free, uninterrupted, focused, decisive, assertive, confident, and disciplined. So when you think of those buzzwords, to me that represents masculinity. And anything beyond that, any negative form of that, is no longer masculinity. Now you're just discussing toxic behavior. So I love those words to describe masculinity. They help us create a picture in our mind of what it means. And with this idea of an arrow in our heads, this sort of uninterrupted arrow, the freedom of an arrow, it really gives us a sense of how you can live a masculine life just with one symbol. But for Sigma males, I think there are ways that masculinity is very difficult to come by. But also there are ways which masculinity comes very easily for us. And some of those include independence. So as a Sigma male, you've got this sense of independence to you. You've got this ability to be free, self-reliant, on your own. And when you think of that, it's easy to think of the buzzwords like being focused. It's very easy to be focused when you're by yourself. You're a loner. You're independent. You're isolated. You can focus on things more. Number 2, you've got free, uninterrupted. And I think this comes very easily for Sigma males because of the way that we naturally live a life. I think Sigma males live a life of some sort of minimalism, or we keep our lives very lean. And we typically don't like to have anything that shackles us down. We don't like to have anything that unnecessarily burdens us or keeps us in some place. And this is actually a conversation I've been having with myself recently, because as Sigma males, we're all in a form of evolution, myself included. And I've come to the place in life where I'm trying to think of all these things which I'm refusing to buy, things I'm refusing to bring into my life because I'm afraid that it will shackle me. I'm afraid it will limit my freedom, my ability to be uninterrupted. And so I'm having that conversation in my head, because as Sigma males, we all have to evolve. We all have to evolve to live the best life we want to live. And sometimes that means making a little concession here and there about how much minimalism you actually want to have. So for the Sigma male, I think it's easy for us to keep ourselves connected to that freedom, that being of uninterruptedness, to be free, no limits. When I think of that, I think of the Sigma male on the empty road, maybe in the out west in America or something. He's on the plains, and you see him, he's got his motorcycle, empty road in front of him, the mountains. And to me, that just symbolizes that Sigma male freedom. And that comes easy for us. The next one, we've got the feeling of being focused and really drawn toward a specific thing, a specific point. Selfishness, in a way. Cutting out everything else, cutting out distractions. To me, that is one of the pillars of masculinity. It's to be looking at one point, to block everything out, like a hunter would, in many ways. Of course, there's reasons to have peripheral vision and stuff like that, but when I think of masculinity, I think of the hunter focusing on that deer, and he's just locked into that deer, and he can see nothing else because he has that masculine objective to take the deer, to bring it back, provide it for his tribe. And so for Sigma males, I think that is easy to come by, that focus. And it can be focus on ourselves, our journey, cutting people out, cutting things that aren't helpful out. Or it could be something like focusing on a business or something like that. And actually, I just met a girl recently who has the same birthday as me. And I started to get this feeling that she might be sort of a Sigma female. And so recently she's been working on her thesis, and she disappeared for like 4 days. And which is cool for me as a Sigma male. I let it slide, and it's cool because I know that if people don't connect, they don't have the same values, then they're eventually going to separate. And because we have the same birthday, I knew that we would probably have some weird similarities. But she disappeared for a few days and then came back and said, sorry, when I focus on work, I can't focus on anything else. And I thought, that's exactly how I feel. And that's exactly how Sigma males feel. Many of us feel like that. We're workaholics. We want to focus on a task. And I thought that was interesting to be on the receiving end of that. The next place we come to as Sigma males in masculinity that's a little easier for us is our objective stoicism, our ability to be pragmatic. So as Sigma males, we have sort of an independent mind. Our mind is a little outside the mainstream for some, or very outside the mainstream for others. And with this, we can kind of step back with a sort of stoicism, unreactive. Sigma males will step back, look at the world, and be thinking, interesting. This is very interesting. Everything's happening right now. It's interesting. Sort of in a spiritual gangster kind of way. Very stoic, very unreactive, very removed, almost detached. And I think this is a pillar of masculinity, to be stoic, to look at things very objectively, to not get wrapped up. And for Sigma males, I think it's very easy for us. We're outside of these dialogues, these conversations, these narratives, and we can step back and say, okay, protests, interesting. Elections, interesting. Pandemics, interesting. And even our own journey toward growth and being a Sigma male, we can look at ourselves, hopefully, and say, Sigma male. Interesting. It's an interesting label. I'm not sure if it's real, but maybe it'll guide me for a moment in my life. And then we come to masculine traits that don't come easy for us. So on one hand, we've got this overthinking, this overanalysis of various things, relationships, ideas. And that seems to be a weakness of Sigma males, to be so in our heads that we overthink things. And how does that affect our masculinity? Because decisiveness is a very powerful pillar of masculinity. And if we're constantly overthinking, then we're going to damage our ability to make clear, strong decisions. I've done this for so long, and it's only recently where I've really tried to get serious about decisions and learn how to live that word. What does that word really mean? I think, if I remember correctly from Tony Robbins, I think he says to decide means to cut off. And so when you think about decisions like that, you're just cutting off the options. And so for me in my masculine journey, it's been learning how to just make a decision and forget that anything else ever existed beyond that decision, and just go with it. There's no going back because you've already cut it off. The second place where we have trouble and how it impacts our masculinity, our introversion. So introversion is great so long as it doesn't impact your ability to assert your needs. If you're too shy, you're too inside yourself to assert what you need, what you want, who you are, what you don't want, what you deserve, then you're going to have trouble. Being assertive is a part of being masculine. Taking what you want, saying what you want, saying how you feel, that's masculinity. And I think when we're introverted, it can damage us a little bit. We forget to speak our needs. Now, taken out of context, you might think about, speaking about our needs, that doesn't seem very masculine. But there's a fine line between complaining and going on and on about your needs and crying about it. Nothing against crying, I've cried plenty. Complaining, being negative, being toxic, and just saying, this is what I want. In your most masculine voice, in your most masculine essence, and just saying, this is what I want. Make it happen, or I'm walking away. So the next part, we've got feeling misunderstood, not having those external sources of feedback, those validators. I think of the beta male. And I think of the beta male as having sort of a bad rap, like, oh, the beta, there's so many betas and poor betas. But actually being a beta is a pretty fantastic place to be if you can stand it. I think Sigma males can't stand to be beta. It's not that we choose not to be, it's that we can't stand it. To be beta is to be fed. To be beta is to be protected. To be beta is to get the extra resources that run off. And that's a pretty fine place for many of us, if we choose to be that, if we can stand to be that. For many of us, it's not a choice. But with being beta, with being this sort of everyone under the alpha, this support role, even in a business or an organization, you think of the upper management and everybody in the support role, and you might think, oh God, that sounds terrible to be supporting all these people who are just making so much money off of you and taking your time. Many people love that because it gives you a reason, it gives you a purpose, and you get a lot of external validation as to who you are, what you are, why you're there. So for many of us Sigma males, as Sigma males, we don't have this external validation. We don't have this feedback. And how does that impact our masculinity? Well, without external feedback, confidence has to come from very different things. And confidence for Sigma males is a long road. It's a long road to find your own path. It's a long road to disconnect from your old path and start a new one. And then years to develop feedback on that, to get those reference points that you should be confident. So I think that is one of the most important pillars of masculinity that's very hard for Sigma males. And then the last one, as Sigma males, we're loners, we're by ourselves, we keep a small team, if anything, if any team at all. So when you think about that masculine trait of being protective, being a leader, having leadership of your team, your family, your community, I think it's hard for Sigma males to express that trait. And I don't know the fix for that. While I know the fix for many of these, like overthinking, find a way not to think so much, find a way to make clear decisions. Introversion, find a way to exercise that extroversion muscle, find a way to be able to assert yourself. Feeling misunderstood, learning about yourself, understanding yourself so you can have confidence. But then we get to this protective leadership part, and I don't know the fix. It's a little more difficult, I think, and I'm still learning about what it means to be a protector in a community. And when I think of it, I think of that reluctant hero. It's like the Sigma male is that reluctant hero. He's like the character like Wolverine. You know, he's off in a bar drinking somewhere and he wants to be left alone. But for the right cause, for the right mission, someone comes out and they try to recruit him. Come back to the X-Men, man. And he's like, God damn it. All right, I will. Only for you. And it's a very special kind of charity because he does it for his own reason, his special reason. He decides to be a protector. So I'm still learning about that. I'm still learning about leadership and how to lead people from this place of being a Sigma male. So those are my ideas about masculine traits. And then I want to talk about this last feminine trait. Now, as a human being, you have feminine traits and you have masculine traits. That's okay. You don't know how weird you would be if you only had masculine traits. You would be almost unbearable to be around. You'd be very strange. You wouldn't fit in at all. So you do have these feminine traits, but I think one thing that we have to think about as Sigma males, we have to make peace with, some of us do, more than others, is this empathy, is the sensitivity, is to learn how to integrate that into our masculine so that we can use it as a tool, because the world does need sensitive men. The world needs these sensitive leaders, especially. We need leaders who can be masculine, but also come from a place of sensitivity. We're finding out right now that we're in this place where we've got one extreme, and there's no middle ground right there. It's like be way too sensitive or be way too callous and masculine. And everybody's forgetting about that middle ground. And I think that Sigma males are the perfect people to fill that middle ground, to have that balance. So that's something you need to think about, balancing within yourself, learning how to use that sensitivity and that empathy and also protect it. So let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this concept of masculinity, femininity, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about this more and more. Talk soon. Thank you.